This is Dragon's Dogma 2. We're here on Xbox Series X, taking a look at the new 120Hz update to the game. Now you might be wondering what exactly this does, and we'll be talking about that over the course of this experience, as it's probably not quite what you think it is, as the concept of it is a little, I would say, misleading, but it's not like we're magically getting like 120 FPS now out of nowhere. So this is a game that did suffer from performance issues when it released and long after, even today, really, yeah. This game has had some technical issues and hurdles, and they have been working to improve the performance level, and they have. It definitely does run a lot better than it did when the game came out, as that was kind of my big issue with this game. I thought it was really quite a near perfect experience. It was just like the performance level in areas was a little disappointing, needless to say. But it's nice to be back, or well, nice to have an excuse to be back in the world of Dragon's Dogma 2. So let's dive in and talk a little bit about this. So the new feature here is that we now have a 120Hz mode, which can be turned on from the display setting, 120Hz. So this sets the graphic output to 120Hz. So back in the day, we had a few different graphics options, or well, we still do. So we've got different graphics options. So it's kind of like they're like 4K reconstructed is sort of what we're getting here. There was an uncapped frame rate, then they added like a 30 FPS cap, and then it's variable. They have ray tracing, which you can turn on or off from the main menu, which is the illumination. And there's Dolby Atmos support, HDR support, and motion blur on or off if you would like to adjust that. So yeah, so yeah, 120Hz. Let's dive in, let's talk about this. So this is really more for like the PlayStation side of things, which might sound weird because we're taking a look at this on Xbox. But like the way that VRR, variable refresh rate, is handled between the two consoles is like a little different for the platforms. So kind of the idea here is that it allows the VRR to kind of like kick in a bit more on the PlayStation. Like it helps on the PlayStation side of things is the biggest change to gameplay, whereas on Xbox it's not really doing a whole lot. Like we're not getting 120 FPS. I can actually record and showcase at it now thanks to the magic of the new Elgato capture card that I got going on here. But the big thing here is it just like really lets it go, like it's more fluid, like if that makes sense. But that's also because they've been doing updates to improve the fluidity. So it's a little hard to just be like, hey, look, it's running way better because of this new 120Hz sort of focused mode. But like, yeah, it is more fluid, and you could also perhaps be like, yeah, it's because they've been doing all these updates to the game over time in order to, you know, improve the fluidity level. So we're gonna actually head into the city, because that's always the spot where the frame just like tanks. So you could say, in theory, with it being 120Hz output, you could be like, oh, it goes up to 120 FPS, but like it's still 60 and below, and it's gonna tank when we go into the city. It's still gonna go down to like possibly like 30 FPS and stuff, and that's just the state of this game. It's a very, I think what was the wording we used there? CPU limited experience in terms of just being something that is really, like it is a very technically impressive game. It looks, I think, amazing. Like I think this game looks absolutely phenomenal. I love the combat, I love the gameplay, I love the style of this. I think this game's absolutely fantastic if you've been kind of like holding off or, you know, kind of debating on it and stuff like that. I do have a review that sort of dives into the I guess you would say the story and stuff a bit more, whereas this is more of a let's look at this new technical mode and see what we're getting here. What is this wolf's problem? Oh, there's a few wolves going around here. That's kind of annoying. Yeah. Anyways, as we finish off these wolf creatures and head into town to kind of show that off, because like I said, the towns are always the most, particularly the main city here is always the one that where the performance is just like Hello, darkness, low frame rate. But no, this game really is quite wonderful. It's I think my front runner maybe for game of the year. There's like one or two other games where I was kind of really enjoying them, but yeah, Dragon's Dogma 2 just really seems to hold quite strong because it's such a technically impressive and well done game with great character moments, story, and just like a breathtaking world that really does feel like a current gen experience where you are diving in and making your way as this Arisen individual and stuff like that. So we're going to be going to the part of the town where the performance just tanks, and I hope this really does show it off, because I mean, like, ideally we'd have the technology of YouTube for me to be able to show you like the full like 120 FPS range so you can really feel it, if that makes sense, like the difference. But like, yeah, it still tanks. I would say this is running way better than it was when we first took a look at this game. Like, I think it is actually quite a big improvement in terms of like keeping that fluidity higher, but you could still see it like right here where it just kind of like absolutely tanks the performance. And as I mentioned, they did clearly note in their sort of upgrade thing where they're like, hey, the 120 hertz mode is out and stuff, that we, you know, the team is going to be, well, they said from their perspective, we're going to be updating it to work on performance. And, you know, I'm sure they're going to keep updating it as things go on. And I'm sure eventually we're probably going to be due for some sort of, like, expansion, right? You would think. I believe the first game had some, like, DLC type stuff. So I'm guessing we're working towards that being a thing eventually as well. It's just, you know, getting that sort of new release, and I'm imagining they'll probably want to get the performance ironed out a bit more for that. But yeah, it's kind of wild too, because I don't know if this character is as high as my other character. I'm trying to remember, because like at the beginning when this first launched, you were only allowed one save. So essentially I had like I play the game save, and then I had like a stream the game save, where I was streaming it with like another account and another character. So I think this is my other, yeah, this is like my main character, so like my role-playing character. And then if you watched my streams, we had another character where we had a different, like Arisen and stuff like that, different characters that we were working with. So this is kind of like my primary squad. And then we've got my pawns nearby, so they're like your followers. They're like ride or die with you if you're not familiar with Dragon's Dogma 2, and like it's the first Dragon's Dogma as well, but they're sort of these like pawns that you kind of like hire and stuff, and they will fight to the death for you and with you, and they high-five you and stuff like that. So I got a group of beautiful ladies to follow me around, high-fiving me and telling me how good I am. It's a dream come true. It's everything you could ever want. You know, true power fantasy fulfillment is what it is. But no, it's really, really quite neat, this game, in terms of like visual quality and everything like that. And like when you're running around, like the performance is actually like decently kind of fluid and stuff like that. Like it's not too bad. It's just some of the situations where you're fighting, you know, like enemies, and you really need that performance is when things become a bit of a problem, I would say, for this kind of game. Yeah, lessening our load. I think I've got lots of extra weight that I've tacked on. So, like, that definitely is a bit of a problem, is dealing with, like, all the, you know, kind of performance drops and stuff during heavy combat. But when you're adventuring around, it's pretty fluid. I think this would have been, and I've been kind of wanting to build towards this in the video, and I should have probably even mentioned it sooner. There really should have been a 40 FPS mode. That was kind of my hopes with them doing the 120 hertz mode. I'm sort of hoping that this would be like a precursor for the idea of them doing a 40 FPS mode update to the game. I guess, like, some people called for a 30 FPS cap, which I don't know if I love the idea of that. I'm glad they didn't force the cap, and it's just an option, which I think is great and an easy thing for them to do, and I think they did that pretty quickly. Because I'm just not a fan. Like, you know, eventually, well, hopefully, we'll be taking a look at this on a future console down the road, future Xbox console, or it'd be really cool to take a look at this on PS5 Pro or something like that, or future PlayStation console as well. See if that extra little bump up would smooth this game out. But like the main thing is really to get, like, I think a 40 FPS mode would be great, and I wish that more games that were really pushing technical boundaries were pushing for that mode, because I think that mode is such a big improvement for the game. Like this it just like I forgot how all over the place this is from a performance standpoint level. And I like the 120 hertz mode output. I think this is a good idea. I think this allows your TV to do a little bit more work. But again, the TVs and the way the Xbox kind of works already sort of is already fine for that. And that's where I was saying it is more of a PlayStation type of update mode. And I know we're playing on Xbox, and it's probably weird to be talking about it from that perspective, especially with that kind of noise there. But yeah, it is really, really quite interesting to kind of have this. But I would really love to have a 40 FPS mode applied to this game, because I think that's a little bit more achievable, and it would give us something that's a little bit more balanced. Because 30 FPS feels slow, but 40 FPS kind of feels slower, but it has that extra little bump of fluidity that just kind of makes it slick. If that makes sense for games, like I don't know if many people have the TVs that can give you that output, because it's becoming more common, I think, but it's still, a certain limited kind of variable rating kind of thing for refresh rate, right? So it's not like it's super, super common for all TVs to have the support of that, but it is becoming more of a common thing. And I think just for future-proofing, too, having that 40 FPS mode for the people that have that option would be like a big, kind of game saver or a game-breaking moment for people, just being able to actually have that target that would be a little bit more flat. Now, I still... Even though my assumption would be that it would be great to have... That's what I'm talking about. Thanks for the high five there, Elizabeth. You're the best. That's why she's number one gal. It would be great because you have a diehard Arisen, if you didn't know that. One that's always with you. So then the other two are like secondary pawns that you can have. It's just... yeah, it would be nice to have something that was a little bit more balanced and focused with a 40 FPS line that I think is a little bit more achievable. But it does seem for, like, the updates to this game, it's less about, like, changing the way the game visually looks, and more about just trying to get that frame rate level better, if that makes sense. Which I think is totally a fair thing to kind of work towards. Like, I think it's great that they're doing that. It's something that should be the focus of all games, that when they launch with unstable frame rate, that the developers do put the time in to improve them, instead of just being like, oh yeah, like a future console will do it, or someone else down the road will handle this or deal with it. And yeah, it is kind of, I think it's a good idea to see the developers do that. I mean, this game is certainly popular enough to the point where I don't, like, it should be getting that kind of support, and it seems like their updates have just mostly been like quick kind of things where it's like, from what I recall, that 30 FPS like cap came out pretty quick, but that's easy, right? You just apply a frame rate cap. You don't have to, you're not trying to hit a higher target or anything like that. You're just telling the game to run at a lower frame rate or have a lower threshold, so that it's not all bumpy and all over the place for people that are into that. I'm not, I'd rather take something uncapped, I guess, than just capped at 30 FPS, but that's really a personal thing that I don't think a lot of people agree with, because my thing is just like, that's kind of funny. I'd rather have the more fluidity, unless it's like nauseating. There are some situations where having, yeah, I guess you would say that all over the place variable kind of refresh rate can make you sick, and I've had a few games like that, but this is definitely not one of those where it comes to mind. It's just, it is jarring going from like an open world where it is getting towards 60 FPS and then going, into the cities, and then it tanks to like 30 or less. Well, you know what? I would say it does seem to actually be getting more towards 30 FPS, which is nice. I don't know how to describe that to people, but it would like tank even like lower than that during the cities in like some situations when it launched. So this game is improving from a technical standpoint. They're getting that frame rate running better, and I think that's ideal. And it seems like their goal is also not to sacrifice any of the actual like visual fidelity and stuff like that, or not too much of it. And I think that in itself is pretty admirable as well, to keep their technical vision, their visual vision of the game clean, while still trying to improve it for us to enjoy in a better way. And I think this game really does look breathtaking, just like the visual, the technical elements of this. I remember just being floored by this game when I, kind of first played it to review it back when it was coming out, which feels like a long time ago, but really, really wasn't, honestly, that long ago, which is kind of funny. Just, you know, you play so many games, or at least I play so many games, it's, yeah, it's kind of wild how many titles I kind of go through and things I check out right into the water, and then the sea kind of takes you, which is funny. But yeah, it's just like, the game can get super hectic too, which we haven't really shown because we kill these enemies so fast. Some of the crazier enemies, there's like all this wild action and stuff going on, where the screen just gets like littered with particle effects, and you know, that's hard on the game too, right? Like, that's hard on the performance of the console because it is such a technically impressive game. But no, I think this is a nice update to the game. It's nice to see that they're still doing support for it, which again, it hasn't been out that long, but you get what I mean. Like, a lot of games, they just kind of come out and then the developers are like, okay, well, that's that, you know, and maybe with a DLC update you get like improvements, but they're steadily trying to make this game run better, and I think that's really quite admirable. But my biggest desire, like I said, would be the fact of getting a, you know, a 4K, well, a 40 FPS for the 4K mode, I think would be wonderful. Because I don't really want to sacrifice visual fidelity too much in this one, because I like how the game looks, I like how it plays, but I do want, you know, I do want the game to run smoother. And I would love to test a 40 FPS mode. I'd still probably play with it uncapped, to be honest. But I just think for those that have the TVs that support it, I think a lot of people would really quite love that option to be able to, you know, enjoy this game at a smooth fluidity level instead of seeing it go like up and down and everything like that. Like, it still would go down, but the threshold wouldn't be as large. Frame rates, they're like a fun, tricky kind of thing that not a whole lot of people fully understand. Like, I would say the biggest thing, and if anyone knows how to get through this door and stuff, it would be great, because this always confuses me. I literally have no idea to get out, how to get in here, and it drives me crazy. I tried quite a few times, and I'm just like, how do you get in there? Like, I've been on the roof, and there's not like a hole or anything. It's how did you get up there, Curie? How did she get up there? That's so weird. How did you do that? I usually have to like do a very complex climbing thing, and she just kind of jumped up on the roof. It's ridiculous. Yeah, so frame rates can be, you know, kind of hard, but like the higher frame rate, the smoother it feels, the better it feels, right? Which is great. But then you get a situation where it's like the frame rate and the performance kind of just like tanks and goes all over the place, and it doesn't feel good to play. But having 40 is that nice little balance, and yeah, I think they've got a really good game here. I think it's great. I still recommend this highly. If you've never played it, you should definitely jump in and enjoy the magic of Dragon's Dogma 2. I think you can have a genuinely great time playing this experience and having fun with all the different characters and things that you meet along the way. It's a great journey. It's one that's like pretty lengthy, offers a very vast world for you to explore. It's just a really cool game. I think they did a wondrous job with it in terms of scale and detail and everything like that. And I do hope they continue in the future to improve the, well, fluidity of the game and just getting that performance level kind of going a little smoother, particularly in the main town, hopefully without sacrificing much. But I think the best time for this game will be when I'm on like a future console down the road taking a look at it and seeing what it can fully do, because I think this game could look really great and run really fluid. And I think it's maybe just the hardware isn't quite there. Like, I mean, we don't even have the ray tracing applied right now, because that was a big update too right off the bat, was they allowed you to turn off ray tracing, because ray tracing was baked into the game and there was no option to turn it off. And I was like, I don't think they can get rid of it because it's like the design thing. But no, literally, like, I think it was like a week after or something like that. Maybe that one was like a month after. I'm trying to think of the timeline. But like, yeah, no, they popped off the ray tracing really fast. It was like, it was there one day and the next day it was gone if you wanted it. But you can turn it on. But what I'm saying is, like, the ray tracing would be even more demanding. So it'll be neat to someday see this on a console perspective, revisiting, and it being like, hey, look, everything runs smooth, looks great, has the ray tracing and all that applied. And yeah, I'm kind of looking forward to that day. But for now, Dragon's Dogma 2 should be interesting to see how it continues to get updated. And I think this higher frame rate output possibility is a good change up for the game, and something that I do appreciate them doing. and hope to see them continue to update it and make it run a little bit more fluid as time goes on.